This is Wet Notes on Scuba Shack Radio for Sunday, February 28th, 2021. Well, first up today, I'm going to do an update on dry suit talc. Now, ever since I've owned a dry suit, I've been using those little pouches of talc to dust my wrist seals and neck seals, and that makes them easier to put on, especially if it gets a little humid. Well, we used to get these little pouches from McNitt, who then became Gear Aid. When we could no longer get them from Gear Aid, we switched to getting them from Diving Unlimited International, or DUI. So recently we ran low on these talc pouches and wanted to order some more. But DUI has stopped producing those talc pouches. I'm guessing there's some concern around the safety of talc. I know this has been in the news over recent years. So Donna reached out to Pete from DUI, and he suggested cornstarch to dust our seals. He said you have to make sure you do it every time. Now, that sounds a little strange to me, but it looks like people are using it in place of the talc. We'll give it a try, and I'll let you know how it goes. Cornstarch. It's not just for cooking. Next up, as things start opening up and we travel outside the country, we're going to need to get tested for COVID-19 before we can come back. Well, resorts are out there, and they're starting to accommodate their customers in making it easier to get tested. So, for example, I just saw where in Roatan, two resorts, the Turquoise Bay Dive Resort and the Mayan Princess Beach and Dive Resort, are offering on-site COVID testing on Thursdays and Fridays. And then what happens is you'll get electronic results are available in 3 hours, and then you'll have a hard copy the next day. Now, you still have to pay for it, and it costs about $50. Then I also checked the Cocoa View site down there in Roatan, and it looks like they are also offering on-site testing. But their price is coming in at $85. So, it looks like if you're going to travel to Roatan, you'll find it easier to get tested for coronavirus and get back home, as long as you test negative. But I think more and more of these dive operators out there are going to provide that COVID testing or options for people so that you can go travel and then make it easier for you to get back home. Also, I think a couple of weeks ago, the President of the United States signed Executive Order 13998. And with that executive order, it mandated that masks are to be worn on all public maritime vessels, including ferries. Well, what does that mean for dive boats? Well, DEMA did some research and found out that this mandate includes commercial vessels used for dive charters and dive-related activities. You'll need to be masked up upon boarding, disembarking, and the duration of travel. Obviously, this can only apply to U.S. operators. I think this makes sense, and I'm sure common sense will prevail, given our unique circumstances when we go diving. Way back in the beginning of 2020, I did a segment on dive travel insurance. Then, in mid-2020, I noticed that Divers Alert Network, DAN, their travel insurance was not available on their website. It is back now, however. There was a short article on Dive Newswire that indicated that there are qualified COVID-19 related cancellation and interruptions covered. There's a lot of detail on their website that you can read through. Essentially, they cover prepaid travel arrangements if you, your host at your destination, your traveling companion, or family member test positive for COVID-19. There's also levels of coverage while traveling, but you'll need to do your research. The good news, however, is that the DAN travel insurance is back, and it looks like they are helping to try and address the coronavirus issues. It's always a good day when I go out to the mailbox and find that the latest issue of the Journal of Diving History has arrived. That happened earlier this week. The cover of the first quarter 2021 magazine features the 5 women who made up the team of Tektite 2, Mission 6-50, which was America's first all-female saturation team. The 5 women included Peggy Lucas, Ann Hurley Hartline, Renata Schlench-True, Elena Schmidt, and Sylvia Earle. The Journal of Diving History, formerly Historical Diver Magazine, is the official magazine of the Historical Diving Society USA and is part of your membership. I can't wait to dive into all the articles. I saw the other day that there's been an oil spill off the coast of Israel and Lebanon, and it's impacting over 100 miles of coastline. Now, what's a little disconcerting about this is that they don't know where this tar is coming from that's washing up on the beaches. It seems like there's some sort of gag order on the release of information. I'm just not sure why. There was also a fin whale that washed up on the beach, apparently with oil in its lungs. They say this is undoing much of the progress made over the last 30 years. Let's hope they figure out where this is coming from or where it came from, and if they're able to minimize the impacts. And finally, here's some really big news in the scuba industry, especially related to scuba tanks. Luxford is getting out of the aluminum tank business. On February 23rd, Luxford held their fourth quarter and full year 2020 analyst call, and that's where they announced their divestiture of their aluminum product lines. Now, their rationale, according to their press release, is that they wanted to focus on high-performance magnesium alloys, zirconium catalysts, and high-pressure composite cylinders. I guess the profit margin just wasn't there on the aluminum tanks. They plan on selling those 2 aluminum forming operations in the United States and the one in the UK, but we don't know who they're going to sell it to just yet. More to come on this as it unfolds. Now, Luxford, they produced a lot of tanks, and there's a lot of them out there, and we're going to see what that does to the supply chain as we move forward. Well, that's it for Wet Notes for February 28th, 2021, here on Scuba Shack Radio.